where we are all meeting today. For me, it's the Dharawal people of the Eora Nation who have for thousands of years shared and exchanged knowledge, engaged in ceremonies of storytelling, music, dance, and celebrations. I would also like to welcome any Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander people at this forum today. Okay, today is a very special day, and it's actually the International Day for People with Disability. So we're celebrating it as part of this forum as well. Since 1992, people all around the world celebrate people with disability and their achievements on this day. The aim of the day is to promote community awareness, understanding, and acceptance of people with disability. Each year, the United Nations chooses the theme to observe. It is a day to take part in creating an inclusive and diverse community for the 5.5 million people with disability in Australia. The theme for 2025 is Fostering Disability Inclusive Societies for Advancing Social Progress. This theme means that we all need to work together to make society fairer and respect the rights of people with disability. Countries like Australia, who are part of the United Nations, have promised to work together to make life better for everybody. They do this by taking away barriers that stop people with disability from joining in, making sure people with disability have the same chance as others in the community, having good healthcare and education, including people with disability in all parts of life, and understanding the problems that people with disability face, for example, being treated unfairly. I hope that you've all been able to participate in some of the many events around the country to celebrate today and also this week, because there's been activities coming up to this day, and there's activities that after today as well, all around Australia. So, okay. Just a little bit of housekeeping, just so that we know. So today we've got Susie, and I think we've only got one of our social work students with us today, and that's Ursula. Wave. Oh, she's got a camera on, so she can't wave. As well as our three volunteer peer leaders who will be sharing their advocacy work with us today. So welcome Sarah Lynn, Jane and Jordan. If possible, when you've got questions, and you might have questions to ask today, can you please use the hand raise feature, and can we just have one person speaking at a time if you know, as well. And please mute your microphones unless you're speaking, just to cut down any kind of noise or anything like that. Okay. So our discussion topics for today, the theme of today is you asked and we listened. So today we're actually doing a bit of a summary of all our achievements for this year. So to start with, Susie will talk about the advocacy model and the feedback that we received from our Advocacy Community Network members across New South Wales and the ACT. Our volunteer peer leaders from Canberra, Port Macquarie and Parramatta will talk about their Advocacy Community Networks, their experience volunteering, and their group's advocacy wins. And I'm going to be talking about our collective advocacy wins and showcasing our new Advocacy Wins SCIA website page as well. Okay, Susie, over to you.
Okay, hi everyone. So I thought we talked about this, I think, at the beginning of last year when we were establishing our advocacy model. And I thought it would be good just to do a refresh of what our model looks like, because what we are funded for and what we try to deliver is representative advocacy, meaning that we're representing you guys and our community. So we've got a number of ways that we do that. And as you can see, I'm not very good at diagrams, to be honest, but as you can see, I've made the little arrows go both ways. And that's because there's a number of ways that we get information from you guys, from our community, and then also we try and give that information back out to you guys, often through the same mechanisms. So I'll take you around the little boxes. We've got our Advocacy Advisory Group, 3 of whom are on this call and talking to you later in this forum. And the others, we've got a little overview of all of our amazing Advocacy Advisory Group members on our website. So little photos for most people now and little bios as well. Each of our Advocacy Advisory Group peer leaders then runs, or most of them, run local networks, which is what Sarah, Lynn, Jordan and Jane are talking to you about today. And those local networks are out in community with members of the community raising issues that exist in the community. And it's been fascinating for us having these networks, which we've been running for a year now, because we learn what is really, really impacting people. We've always had our high level things, health, housing, and they are really important. They're still our priorities. But what we're learning when we talk to people on the ground and through our leaders is actually local issues are really important as well. So the Advocacy Community Networks are a great way to be engaging with people who might not join forums like this, who might not otherwise have a voice, and then also sharing information back out. I'll come to that in a minute, jumping ahead. We've got our forums and workshops. So we run 6 forums a year, and they're recorded. So as I was saying before, sometimes it looks like there's not many people at them. Sometimes we get small numbers, but we have hundreds of people watch them afterwards if they don't join the meeting. So they're a really great way for us to seek feedback from you, understand the issues. So some of our forums we've been seeking feedback. Like a couple of months ago, we did one on health and we sought feedback about where the gaps for health were. But then they're also a great way to share back. So we might now have some updates about health, or we might have, like last time, I think we had updates about the aviation review. We can then share back through these forums and workshops as well. We have our monthly email, our fellow advocates, we call it, where we seek input. So if we want to find out, if we want you to participate in a survey so we can write a policy brief, we might ask you to contribute, but we can also share out information. So anything that we have learned, any activities, any international people with disability events, anything that you might be interested in, Gordana shares in those emails. We also, as a team, write submissions, we write policy briefs for all our advocacy priorities, we write letters to decision makers, we meet with decision makers, and we share what our advocacy priorities are. So the things you're raising through your networks, through your advisory group, gets shared through our submissions, policy briefs, letters, and communications with leaders. We always share lived experience case studies in there. So we'll either come out through the advocacy networks or through the Our Fellow Advocates email, or we'll just, if we don't have as much time, there's not always a lot of time when you're doing a submission, we may just go through our Advocacy Advisory Group as your representatives and get the stories and the feedback and the priorities from the group. We also have a take action page on our website, which we shared with you, I think, at the last forum, which is where it's quite amazing. And I think, Jordan's in Canberra, Sarah Lynn's in Port Macquarie, and Jane's in Metro Sydney. And yet so often when we analyse the issues that you're raising, they're the same issues. And so what we do is we analyse that, we categorise it. Some of it goes into submissions. Some of it is in policy briefs. Sometimes we escalate it to other advocacy organisations who have a more systemic reach than us. But we also give you actions as well, because there's heaps of stuff you can do, as exemplified by, I think, the stories that Jane, Sarah Lynn and Jordan will share today. There's heaps of actions that our members can take as well. At a local level, we can see members. We can write letters to the NDIS. We can advocate for ourselves in social housing. And so on that Take Action page, subpage of our website, are lots of resources to help you self-advocate or advocate in groups at your local level, in your local networks. And then the last thing we do is campaigns. We have one for real estate agents at the moment. You can see that on the website too. And that's, again, where something has come through so many times that we go, we've got to do something about this. And the campaign's going to be targeted at 2 levels. It's going to be something that Gordana, myself and Tony might write submissions. We might try to go to housing ministers. We might try to go to Treasury, as we did this year, to advocate for the importance of accessible housing. But then at the same time, as our campaign is currently doing, you can go to your local real estate agents, ask them to showcase access. So there's sort of two-level approach. At a local level, we can ask you to support, and we will also be advocating at a more systemic level. So I guess that's why the little arrows go both ways. We're always trying in our model to learn from you, to learn what's going on the ground. And after an advocacy community network meeting, we will always analyse the feedback that comes through from you, and we'll make a decision about whether or not Tony's going to write some information for the Take Action page, whether or not we're going to write a submission, and we'll always look at how we can advance that, those issues that are being raised by the people on the ground. That's how we try and do our model. We're always looking to add new pillars. We're always seeking feedback. There's a representative email address at the bottom of Our Fellow Advocates on the website, or you can go through your local network peer leaders if you are lucky enough to have a network in your area. If you don't, you could always start one yourself. We're always open to that as well. So that's a little bit of how we work. And then, because it's been running for a year, we did a survey to try and find out how people were feeling about these local network meetings. So we've got Advocacy Community Networks now running in 7 areas. 116 people have attended those meetings over the last year. And I think there've been 30 meetings. So we've got quite a few meetings happening now, quite a few people to talk to. And we went out and surveyed. Some of you might have done the survey. So thank you very much if you have contributed. And we got some really good feedback, especially looking at what we're supposed to be doing in representative advocacy. And my favourite little bit of feedback here is in this top box, where 52% of respondents were significantly more confident and 36 somewhat more confident. So 88 people were more confident overall to advocate for themselves as a result of coming to an Advocacy Community Network, which is pretty amazing, actually. People are more confident as a result of coming. Makes sense. It's easier to do when you're in a team. Everything's easier in a team. We also heard 56% and 32% felt significantly more able, and 32% somewhat more able or better understanding of their disability rights. Again, so important, knowing your rights, knowing when you can speak up, and to have, what is that, 87? Oh, I'm not very good at maths, and now this is going to be recorded. Anyway, it's a large number of people who are better able to understand their disability rights. 72% knew where to participate in advocacy campaigns and events, so knew how to get involved, and 79% said they had the opportunity to connect with others. Obviously, it's not only about advocacy. Advocacy is the output, the impact that we have, but connecting with people is a really important thing to do as well. And I think one of the quotes, which may or may not be in here, was from somebody who said, I normally don't go out. You know, I'm normally at home. I haven't quite got used to my disability, but this gives me a space where I feel safe to go out. So connecting with others is just as important as advocacy, although advocacy will almost always come from connecting with others, because, you know, you start to learn what you can do. The other statistic, which I wasn't surprised to see, is that 96% of respondents said having a group leader with lived experience is important, because, well, for the reasons you all know, having somebody who understands and can speak from lived experience makes such a difference. So even though I wasn't surprised for this little orange circle, it's really nice to have that feedback. So then there's a few quotes around the edge. I learned to better advocate for myself. Meeting others and learning about their experiences was fantastic. A few people made some recommendations about wanting to share more stories or activities to get everyone talking. Another person made a comment about a more structured agenda. So all these recommendations we build into the program next year for continuous improvement. Someone here said they would normally stay away from crowds. 100% of respondents said they'd recommend the networks, which is pretty good endorsement, really can't get better than that.
Yeah.
And someone's also said the group can benefit people to share different topics and learn from each other. So it's pretty nice to see at the end of the year the impact that we're having to the people who attend these meetings. And I guess really importantly, that's why we wanted to ask Jane, Jordan, and Sarah Lynn to come along and share their experiences, to share with you what it looks like at an advocacy community network on the ground. They're all a bit different. They all run slightly differently. Sarah Lynn runs a group in Port Macquarie, Jordan runs a group in Canberra, and Jane runs a group in Parramatta. We asked them questions like why they decided to volunteer and what's the benefit for them running a group. How was it setting up the meetings? Who's welcome? Who can come? What were your successes? What are you looking forward to next year? What do your participants say they enjoy? Frustrations? What are you currently working on? So we've asked them to share that with us today. I'll hand over to Sarah Lynn first, then Jordan, then Jane. And I think Gordana's prepared a slide for each of you, so we can see a little bit about your network. So I'll just flick between when you're presenting. Or actually, yeah, I'll just flick between when you're presenting. So I'll throw over to you, Sarah Lynn, to share a little bit about your community network on the Mid-North Coast.
So I am the peer leader for Port Macquarie Mid-North Coast Advocacy Community Network. Why did I decide to volunteer, and what benefit to you from running a local network? I decided to volunteer because I felt alone in my disability, and I didn't want anyone else to feel this. I also felt there was a lack of support on peer-to-peer level in my area, and a lot of the groups stopped happening when COVID hit and haven't restarted. And this looks like a perfect avenue for me to be able to engage my community and help others, and to advocate for myself and others if they are unable to do themselves. Also an opportunity to build their confidence up and my own, show them how to advocate for themselves. Being a peer leader has helped me get my confidence back, and I'm learning so much. I feel so much joy when I see my members helping each other, suggesting things that might help. And when we have some advocacy wins, it's such a great feeling. And I also feel I don't feel alone anymore. I have a beautiful community of people around me who have so much knowledge between us all. The support from SCIA that provides is fantastic. We spent a full day doing a workshop at Sailgood and learnt so much about how to advocate and how to support people to advocate. We also have phone calls before and after meetings with Gordana. It has been great that and I know she's only an email or phone call away. How was the initial process of setting this meeting up? What worked, what didn't? What supports do you have in place? How do people find out about it? When setting up, I used local social media opportunities. I also reached out to medical professionals and took my flyers into medical practices, local hospitals, physios, etc. And now have some great connections. I can now just forward the flyers on via email, which is great. I think by having different days and locations helps so that members can attend at least a couple of meetings per year. And having commitments themselves can change days and times where they're available. So I feel like that has really worked. Having a plan B is really important, especially when you're having your function outside. As my first meeting, it poured with rain and we didn't have as many people come. So I think having a plan B is fantastic. I know that we can reach out to Gordana or Susie if we have any queries, share ideas, or when we don't know how to tackle something on our own. Their knowledge is amazing, and people usually see our meetup flyers on social media and through their medical teams and word of mouth. Who is welcome at the meetings? Anyone with a spinal cord injury or neurological condition. For example, not including all, but Parkinson's, MS, cerebral palsy, tumours on the brain/spine, spinal conditions, FND, MND, etc. Find there is a lot of local issues brought up in our groups, like footpaths, curb ramps, transport, access, things to do with the NDIS, the changes with NDIS, public bathrooms, accessible parking, housing, and much more. What have some of your successes? This journey has been amazing. Our successes include, for some reason there was 2 bollards on the main street that were blanked out, parking spots, and the bollards were removed. I can gladly say the bollards have been put back. I also, with a lot of my members, did a roll/walk around with mobility equipment with one of our local MPs and our mayor, which I think was brilliant way to platform access issues and bring those people to understand day-to-day struggles with people with mobility limitations. I'm looking forward to doing this more, as I feel it is a great way of people to understand. I had support on the day from some of our members, which was fantastic. I also feel that there needs to be people with lived experience on updates of old infrastructure and new infrastructure. I think that is really important, because with our lived experiences, we can make it the best it can be and the safest it can be for everybody, not just people living with a disability, for everyone, but it will help those of us living with a disability. It is fantastic to sit back and watch my members come up with a problem and how everyone just gets in and talks about it and helps each other. It's a really beautiful thing for me to be able to watch that and watch everyone help each other. It's just how the Australian way is, and it's amazing. Also sharing knowledge about medical facilities or medical practitioners with each other is being brilliant. Also sharing knowledge about things like TTS cards, companion cards, also Carers Gateway for our family and our carers, so we can get them support to help support us, because without family and carers and without them having support, we can't maintain the life that we're living as well. Also, have you had any frustrations, and how have you managed these? Dealing with access issues in our local area have been challenging. I just continue to vocalise these issues and encourage my members to do so as well. Public transport is a big issue in our area. Bus stops aren't accessible, and the lack of accessible vehicles such as taxis in some areas is still an ongoing challenge, and one I will continue to advocate for and support my members to advocate for as well. What are the current pending agenda items? Accessing NDIS, that is a big pending item. I think there is a lot of people out there still trying to access the NDIS, and I will be continuing to support them. And also, SCIA will continue to support those people if they need some extra help. Transport obviously is going to be a long-term issue, and I think that one will just keep coming up, but we'll just continue to advocate for it and just keep the conversations going, because that's really important, and to keep bringing things up. Sometimes the squeaky wheel eventually gets heard. What have you and your participants enjoyed about these local network meetings? I think my members have enjoyed engaging in conversations, as well as the social side of being around people with similar disabilities or limitations. I've enjoyed gaining so much knowledge from everyone and being able to support others and build connections within my community. I would have never guessed possible that I'd be meeting with members of parliament and discussing issues around people living with disabilities. Being part of an accessible housing campaign, which is something I hold really close to my heart, and keeping that conversation going with council and local members and real estate is really important. It has been extremely rewarding. Really, I look forward to the change that this group will help make. What are your plans for next year? To keep this group thriving and hopefully expand even more, moving around areas so that we can continue to help and support and to advocate for themselves and us and myself. Also hope that we see more consultation on access issues in the community and get more people within councils or parliament in mobility equipment so that they can understand how hard it is to navigate these areas. I was at a council meeting this morning, which went absolutely brilliant. And I can happily say that council has approached me and have organised our special walk around for a master plan for our Town Beach area. And we've locked in a date. So this is what's coming out of our advocacy group. And I can also say now that Port Macquarie will be receiving Moby matting for one of our beaches. And this is all the feedback that we get from our meetings has then put this for members to come along to our meetings and voice their concerns and voice what they would like, as well as me taking back for people who can't. So we've had some really big wins, and I've found some really big wins out today. So I'm very excited, and I think it has been a really big wild ride, but it's been fantastic. And every step closer we get to making my little patch as accessible as possible is a win.
Thank you so much, Sarah Lynn. It's so great to hear your experience on the Mid-North Coast and of your group, and to hear the wins that you've had, which we can add to our wins page that Gordana is going to share later. And thank you so much for sharing that. We've heard it was interesting when we got the feedback. There were some people and we had quite a few personal comments, and actually all three of you were named personally, because Sarah Lynn is always listening, or Jane is so welcoming, or whatever it is. So it's really lovely to have you here sharing these things. So thank you so much, Sarah Lynn. Really appreciate it. And I will move on to Jordan now and let you take the floor.
Fabulous. Hello, everyone, and thank you for joining us and lending me your valuable attention. I really appreciate it. My name is Jordan, and today I'm here to share my advocacy journey with you all. I would like to start by talking a little bit about my community here in Canberra to provide some context and a general background. So I have lived in Canberra my entire life, both as an able-bodied person and for now over 10 years as a person with an acquired disability. I sustained a spinal cord injury in 2013 and have been learning firsthand the integral role that community plays in pursuing recovery, overcoming adversity, and thriving as a disabled individual. Canberra is somewhat of a moderately populated island nestled within the vast ocean that is regional New South Wales. With just under 500,000 residents, in our short history, we have grown from a rural settlement into a modest suburban metropolis and the political centre of our nation. Taken only on appearances, it might be easy for one to consider the amenities available for someone living here with a disability to be ample and abundant. However, this is simply not the case. Almost all Canberrans who stumble into the world of spinal cord injury have the uniquely shared experience of commencing their voyage into their new lives as a disabled person recovering in one of Sydney's renowned spinal rehabilitation units, a very long way from home. In this environment, we are surrounded by specialists and experts whose responsibility it is to ensure that the beginning of our journey is profuse with the support and guidance we need for success. Upon my discharge from the spinal ward at Prince of Wales Hospital in Sydney, I abruptly began to ask myself the question, is my community, the community I love and call home, equipped to support me and the people I share my life with through this newly formed journey of disability? And will I be able to achieve my goals and my fullest potential with what is available to me here? And the answer was a confronting and resounding no. My experience as an advocate began in late 2016, after an isolated pursuit of personal progress in my recovery whilst adapting to life in the community as a person with disability. I had ventured to Western Sydney at great personal expense to visit the Neuromove's rehabilitation and exercise clinic for treatments that I have now come to consider imperative for someone in circumstances such as my own. I came to learn that I was, in fact, not alone in this endeavour, and discovered several other spinal cord injured Canberrans were doing the very same. Shortly thereafter, we were united under the common goal of establishing a Neuromove Centre in our own local community, thanks to the subsequent formation of a committee consisting of volunteers, later known as Spinal ACT, which advocated and lobbied tirelessly for the cause. And just over a year later, this objective was fully realised, with Neuromoves Canberra commencing operation in 2018. In coming together as a community and sharing our lived experiences, the regular discourse soon revealed a vast extent of shortcomings we all felt strongly about. In summary, Canberra and its surrounding regions were not equipped to adequately support our members' needs. Spinal ACT committed itself to addressing as many of these community-based deficits as possible in an ongoing push for a more supportive and inclusive place to call home. Inclusive of the Neuromoves program, Spinal ACT has since advocated for enhancements to our local wheelchair accessible taxi service, establishing a locally operated specialist annual health review program for people with spinal cord injury, as well as several other peer support and community building related initiatives. However, despite our success, we as a committee began to feel the strain of our limited resources and the challenges associated with staying connected with the broader community. It has been through the recent development in our long-standing partnership with SCIA, their generous sponsorship, support and guidance, that the Spinal ACT Committee has been revitalised in its efforts and activities, thanks in large part to the local commencement of SCIA's ACN Community Advocacy Program, which I have now been delivering as a representative of Spinal ACT for almost 12 months. Through this endeavour, Spinal ACT has been able to substantially expand our community engagement and outreach. With monthly meet and greet opportunities, our community members have been able to gather in a safe and supportive environment to discuss personal and community-related issues, as well as share their own lived experiences. The network has fostered a strengthened sense of community-centred, peer-led support that has proven to be of extraordinary benefit to all community members. Participants have since been able to regularly raise their concerns about issues that matter most to them, including items such as accessible parking, accessible transport, specialised healthcare, funding and support for older individuals with SCI, as well as personal struggles with adverse and complex circumstances. Our members have enjoyed the resulting fortified sense of community and the sharing of resources in a welcoming social environment. Although the community advocacy program has largely thrived here in Canberra, it has not been without its difficulties. With restricted resources and the substantive dependence on a network of passionate volunteers, ensuring the program remains robust and sustainable has been challenging, as well as promoting and encouraging adequate participation in the long term. As our local peer leader, I am encouraged by the positive results so far, And in the coming year, I will continue to working towards growing our participation and delivering the outcomes our wonderful community deserves, with the support and guidance of Spinal ACT and Spinal Cord Injuries Australia. Thank you to all members and participants. I'm very grateful.
Thank you so much, Jordan. It's really great to hear that story. And there's been some big wins in the history of Spinal ACT, actually, that happened. We can't claim a lot of credit for, but happened before the ACNs, but it was a good foundation for all the amazing achievements. Like, for example, the annual health check, which I had the privilege of being there when it was announced. And it was great to see the entire Spinal ACT do a little simultaneous whoop. And also the having the NeuroMoves in there. And that picture that's on the screen is actually of the NeuroMoves team leader, I think, with you, Jordan. So, great work to you guys. And thank you so much for sharing the story of the ACM work in the ACT. So really appreciate that. And we'll move on now to Jane from Southwestern Sydney. I've been saying the shorthand terms, haven't I? I've been saying Port Macquarie now I'm saying Parramatta instead of Southwestern Sydney. So Jane's our Southwestern Sydney rep.
Hello, everyone. Thank you for this opportunity, Susie and Gordana. It's really nice to be able to talk about our achievements and success. As Susie mentioned, I run the network in Parramatta. It's a meeting room in the new library building in all the development of Parramatta Square, and the building is called 5. And we have a lovely meeting room there that is very accessible with accessible toilets, and it's easy to get to, close to Parramatta Station and public transport. And there's also parking underneath, which can be a little bit expensive, but there are other alternatives such as Westfield, which is free. I decided to be a volunteer for SCIA when I first heard about the program they were setting up, this innovative model of community advocacy, and it intrigued me because I've worked in local government and as a community service provider, as a community development officer, diversional therapist, home and community care, home provider, and strategic planning. So this model just sounded new and exciting, and something that I could use my skills for, that I'm now retired due to my spinal cord injury and surgery, which didn't go so well. And I had plenty of time and I wanted to give back to the community. I benefit dramatically from being part of this. I love meeting all the new participants. I love being involved. I love working with Susie and Gordana and other members. They're so helpful and innovative and interested, and can really determined to make a difference in the community in ways that not taking over, but involving us to help them make policies and procedures and fight for better rights of people with disability. I also like the participants, and I feel a real sense of purpose and that I'm giving back. And my skills, as I said, in local government, I'm able to utilise those to help to get things moving. Sometimes a little bit hard, but I know a little bit of the trickiness of working with bureaucracy. So that's something that I also like doing. Setting up the process was not that hard with the support of Susie and Gordana. Sarah Lynn's also mentioned that we had a training day, which was really beneficial, and we learned a lot from the other participants, and we had guest speakers providing guidance, and we've had ongoing guidance throughout all our 6 meetings, well, 5, and my next meeting, the last one for the year in December the 10th. And basically, we have support financially to buy morning tea items, and sometimes I bake a cake or other people have brought things in, and we share that, and we always have tea or coffee and then lunch afterwards. What works is having a private meeting room, because when we first started, we went to a local club and it ended up being a bit noisy. It was a wonderful new club that was completely accessible, wonderful parking, but when we met, there was a lot of loud music for the lunchtime patrons, which didn't work very well, and there was no private meeting space, and it didn't work for us who wanted to talk about very personal information and about some of the issues. And when we first met, it was about sharing our disabilities, our challenges, issues that are affecting us. So it was quite a difficult process for some to talk about these things. So when SCIA supported us to hire through funding the meeting room in 5, the library building, it made a big difference. I mentioned that Gordana is a huge support, and because it's a Parramatta meeting, Gordana comes to our meetings, which is fabulous, and often has a student to help out, which helps with getting the tea and coffee and everything ready and putting the seats around. So that's a great help too. So I just bring the tea and coffee, and the agenda and also the minutes are sent through Gordana, who takes the minutes, and so it's quite easy to run. I would highly recommend, if anybody else is interested, to set one up in their area. I utilised social media a lot to actually promote the network, and that was through Facebook and Instagram. And I found, well, I tried to find as many as I could, the Facebook's groups that support people with disabilities such as spinal cord injury, spina bifida support groups, and NDIS support groups. So that was widely circulated. I also put posters up in some of the libraries, and I go to newer moves like Jordan, so I left flyers there. And also posted it in groups such as, I live in North Rocks, and they have community groups for suburbs. And the Parramatta Network actually has people coming from far and wide around the area, not just Parramatta, but there's Fairfield and Castle Hill and Granville and some other areas that are outside the Parramatta LGA. So we've got a really great group of people representing lots of different areas. I've got a list of issues here that I'll just read out. We've had a lot, and they're probably, some are very similar to Jordan and Sarah Lynn, and I'm sure they're similar with some of the other groups. We brought up issues such as access to cafes, and we've had success there because we've been using Snap, Send and Solve, and that's a great tool which I learned about through the network. I didn't know about that before. So we've had success with council workers going down and educating cafe owners about accessibility and not blocking ramps and accessible bathrooms with tables, etc. We've had issues about fading mobility parking permits and the cost to renew, and that's an ongoing issue that will follow up. We've had a wonderful letter writer named Adrian who comes to our meetings, and he's been fabulous at putting together a very concise and detailed letter about the issues affecting people with disability and why is there extra cost when we need these for parking, if you can find a parking spot that suits you. Westfield at Parramatta, we had lots of problems because all the lifts have been breaking due to their age, and it takes a long time to receive spare parts or even replace lifts. They come from overseas. So we've had success in Westfield putting up signs around the area to actually let people know how to access lifts, and also signs about the lifts are priority for people with disabilities, shopping trolleys, prams, etc. So we're not only just helping people in wheelchairs, it's other people who can use different areas and accessibility that makes a difference in their lives. We've had Lake Parramatta. Kerry is in this meeting listening at the moment, has brought up issues about access to the toilets. People have to go along the road, and that can be a bit dangerous at times because of the a number of cars. And also Parramatta Council spent a lot of money improving access to the swimming area, but there was still a lot of parts of the stairway and access were not quite meeting accessibility, so we're working on that. We haven't heard back yet, but we will follow up that next year. Nabila, who's one of our members, has identified that our light rail in Parramatta, the markings for disability embarking on the carriages was a light grey and wasn't able to be found. So she's been writing to State Rail, and we're waiting to hear from them if they'll make changes. We've had some issues about supportive disability accommodation for entry, and also that it was advertised to be close to accessible transport. And yes, there was a railway station. However, there was no access with lifts. So that access was really a bit of a fib on the brochures. So Gordana and Susie have taken that up as one of the big issues. And it was unfortunate for some people who moved in there because one person couldn't even get in through the front door because it wasn't an automatic opening door, which then this person who was moved into the SDA had to wait outside for someone to come along to open the door, which is just inappropriate. We've had taxi smart cards raised about some taxi drivers not accepting them, which again is a very difficult thing if you've waited ages for a taxi. And then when it does eventually show up, you can't use your taxi voucher. Again, we're going to follow up with that. Gordana has been fantastic coming along to meetings and giving us updates about the NDIS reforms and SCIA and Royal Rehab amalgamation. So that's been really fascinating and interesting and quite important for us to know about these issues. We've also had pedestrian crossings at Fairfield that were inaccessible. And Nabila, I've already mentioned Nabila, but she gained great success with getting that fixed up very quickly with Fairfield Council. And the last issue was that Parramatta Council were updating their DIAB, the Disability Inclusion Action Plan. So through the network, we've been invited to participate in that before it went to Parramatta Council, and also the consultation process, which we were all able to be part of that through emails that went out and we could circulate it. Let me just see my list here. Who was welcome? Everyone's welcome with spinal cord injury and neurological disability, similar to Sarah Lynn. And we have members who have had long-term disabilities and others who are new. So we've learned a lot from each other, and also the people who are quite knowledgeable because of their experience, their life experience. They've shared a great wealth of information. It's been fabulous. I've learned a lot, and it's great to be able to share things that you know as well. As I mentioned, we've got a number of pending items. I won't go through them again. And we've got a question here about frustrations and how we've managed these. I mentioned about the meeting space. The frustrations are, I guess, that everyone can't come to the meetings on the set day and they want to come. It might be raining, transport might be an issue, but everyone's welcome, and we make sure that people receive all the minutes, which Gordana completes for us, which is great. I think I've got a big list here of what we've gained, and what we've gained from these network meetings is just really hard to measure. It is suddenly a sense of belonging. We feel like we're a group of people with the same lived experience and able to share skills and information about services and activities and recreational opportunities. For example, I go to para ice hockey, and one of the members is coming along with me and hopes to keep coming next year, which is fabulous. We need more women if anyone's interested. It gives individuals a sense of community. You suddenly feel that you're not alone, and Sarah Lynn and Jordan explained that perfectly. It's nice to be with a group of people who support you and encourage you and give you a sense of purpose and confidence. You are able to achieve, again, if you've a new disability and you're not sure which way to go in jobs or activities or community, this can help you reach goals and make sure that you actually achieve things for the positive, and you're helping so many other people, not just people with disabilities, people, as I said, with prams and shopping trolleys and walking frames, and older people and grandparents and young people. So it's really important that we get a good variety of people. We learn from one another, and I said I learned about the SNAP, Send and Solve. We're learning about NDIS reforms and how that will impact on us. And best of all, we're making new friends, and we're helping one another, and that's the sense of belonging. And I must say that it couldn't happen without Susie and Gordana and this very innovative model where people are able to participate in their community and make a difference by learning different skills and helping one another, and also using the skills that they already have. So it's a wonderful, wonderful experience, and I'd highly recommend people to attend, and also people to set up their own groups, because you will get lots of support, and also you will then be able to participate and make a difference in your community. And plans for next year is that continue to promote, gain new members, work on the issues we've already identified, celebrate the successes, learn more about advocacy, and possibly gain at the network some guest speakers of interest, and be able to learn from the experts in areas that we want to know more about. So again, highly recommend. be part of this new innovative model of advocacy and being part of the community. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Jane. I must say that we've learned a lot from you as well, because your knowledge of council, how to get through to council, how to navigate council is really valuable as well. So when you mentioned that, I thought, yes, I have to say that again, because we've learned a lot as well. And I think that's one of the things you highlight so beautifully. Everyone in your group brings their knowledge.
Yes.
Everyone in our advisory committee. I mean, we could only invite the 3 of you today because we can't have everyone share. We might do another one next year with 3 other people. Every group's different, but every group's quite similar. Every group has people who have different bits of knowledge that we all learn from. So it is a really exciting thing to be involved in. And thank you so much, Jane, for sharing your experience. There's a lot of wins in there. And Gordana's going to share in a minute our wins page, which I think we need to update based on what Sarah Lynn and you have shared today. And some of the wins, they're fantastic. It doesn't always have, some of advocacy can be intractable. You know, we're not going to get accessible housing tomorrow. We might be able to make some steps along, you know, changes along the way. Like one of our wins has been about accessible housing. But in the meantime, updating the local pool, getting access, like making small changes, they're great wins as well. So, you know, I think someone said in the chat, it's great that we're having this impact and having these wins. And so thank you so much, Jane. Thank you so much, Jordan and Sarah Lynn, for sharing your journeys and your individual groups' journeys with us today. We really, really appreciate your work, and you're taking the time to share your stories as well. Gordana, I think I'll hand back to you. Oh, no, we won't. Any questions? Does anyone have, I know we've got a smaller group today, but does anyone have any questions for our, see, look, there's a slide for this. Any questions for our leaders? I have one. I'll start. I know everyone's different. Everyone feels comfortable talking in different, you know, at different levels. I know some people are more shy than others. So do you have any strategies that you use to help people feel comfortable when they're nervous attending? Or how does that work? How do you welcome people who are feeling a bit anxious or nervous?
Shall I go first, Susie?
Please.
We make people feel very welcome because they are, and we really appreciate new members. You know, doesn't matter if you know a lot, you know very little, you're new, you haven't met people before, you want to, as you said, there are people who don't go out, and this was the first time they did go out and meet other people with disabilities. We always give them space and let them have an opportunity to speak, and also make sure that everybody, no matter what the issue is or whatever story they're providing, it's valuable and it's really interesting, and we really appreciate people coming along and talking about their experience, their issues, and what has affected them, because we're learning from them. And then we come up with different ideas and we share around the room, how could we address something once an issue is raised? And we make suggestions and see what people are comfortable at. So sometimes people decide not to take on issues, and other people put their hand up, or at the next meeting they come back and say they've been thinking about it, or send emails. And so we really appreciate people providing their valuable time to actually share their information and their skills, and also their knowledge and experience. So everyone's valued and respected, and everyone has a turn to talk. As we know in life, some people talk more than others, and sometimes people just need a bit of encouragement. And it's harder if you're in a big group. Smaller groups I find easier, but everyone is respected, and I think that's the best way to go.
Thank you so much, Jane. Sarah Lynn, do you want to add?
Yeah, so I tend to obviously welcome new members myself, but we also go around the room or the space that we're in and get people to introduce themselves and to just say anything about themselves that they feel comfortable. I also, with my group, I've set out a very relaxed setting. We've done a lot of barbecues and really chilled settings so people feel comfortable to share that knowledge. And I found that's been really, really fantastic. I find the relaxed setting just tends to get people to open up a little bit more. And I hope that they feel comfortable. And from my feedback, they do feel comfortable. And I just think continuing to do that and giving everyone a chance just to say who they are, even if we've done it 10,000 times, we might have 2 new people, we still do it. And everything changes for someone, like on a day-to-day basis living with a disability. So you might be just saying, oh, I've had a rough day. And my name's Sarah Lynn, I've had a rough day. Getting here was really hard. And then it starts the conversation flowing. And I feel that's really, really valuable.
Thank you so much, Sarah Lynn. I think it comes back to that statistic I shared with feedback. 96% have the say having someone with lived experience as a leader helps, because you understand, exactly that. So thank you so much. Before we move on to Gordana's question, Jordan, do you have anything you want to add about your group?
Yeah, absolutely. I'll just be quick. I just wanted to sort of say that, I think what works really well is that, because a lot of people can find advocacy quite an intimidating thing to approach, presenting as a warm and welcoming support group just to kind of promote that general discourse is really the best place to start when looking at approaching advocacy, just because it does loosen people up in a softer and more friendly environment. And even if people aren't necessarily keen on becoming an advocate themselves, it still opens up an opportunity for them to have a voice that will be heard by people who can help kind of carry that load and make a difference.
That's a really valuable thing that you say there, Jordan. It sounds so intimidating, right? I'm going to go out and do some advocacy, but in actual fact, it's really just speaking up for your needs. And you may not be the person who goes to a politician, or you may be the person who goes to a politician, but advocacy is quite natural to all of us. I think I know I have teenage daughters and they seem to be very good at advocating. So it's something that we're all quite good at. But sometimes we lose our nerve when it has a big word, or it might be to a politician. So having a group, isn't it nice to have a team to advocate with, so that you don't feel like you have to do something you're not comfortable doing? Maybe someone else is more comfortable. So really valid. It's connecting. And then the advocacy comes next. So thank you so much for sharing that, all three of you. Gordana, do you have a question?
I was just going to add, and the ability to be able to talk to someone who actually understands where you're coming from, and then get the support that you need to be able to make that step. Like, I mean, Adrian's a good example, who's in our Parramatta team. Like, we said, why don't you give this a go? And he went, okay, I will. Yes. Which was really amazing. I just wanted to add, because I get to speak to some of your people. They often, I get people that write to me by email or write through the Representative Advocacy Group, and they do give a lot of really positive feedback, and they do tell me how important these groups are for them as well. And even when I go to like Jane and Raja's meetings, because I get to go to those, it's amazing how many of those people actually say how important this has been to them. So I think, big clap to everybody who's involved in this, because it's been quite an amazing journey, like Jane said, and Sarah and Jordan as well. It's been a really amazing journey for all of us. So it's been really good. That was me. No question.
Excellent. Well, thank you so much. And we've got a comment in the chat saying that these groups are absolutely important. So thank you so much, Jane, Jordan, and Sarah Lynn, for sharing.
You guys are great.
And if anyone is watching and wants to come to these groups, they're on the events page of the SCIA website, and they're shared through our social media. But social media can be strangely hit and miss. So check out the website in the events section, and register for a group close to you. If there isn't a group close to you, then email Gordana and maybe you can help make that happen.
Start something happening.
So that's the end of my little promotional speech. I'll hand back to you, Gordana, to share our exciting wins page, which fits so beautifully with the presentations today.
Okay, so advocacy wins happen when the Advocacy Community Networks, the Advocacy Advisory Group, and the Advocacy Team work together for change. Our team works closely with these groups and their members and the SCIA community to make sure that their lived experience is at the forefront of our advocacy work. Much of the advocacy work we do in SCIA is systemic in nature, and seeing results can sometimes take years. In the past 12 months, we have developed a number of policy briefs that reflect the issues that matter to our members and the spinal cord injury and neurological communities. The examples of issues provided in our briefings are direct contributions from our members' lived experience. So our policy briefs include NDIS and aged care reforms, affordable accessible housing, equity for people who acquire their disability at 65 years and over, transport issues including aviation, public transport and taxis, accessible parking, access to health, and the quality of disability service provision. Our team works behind the scenes with other advocacy agencies by meeting with and writing correspondence to decision makers, highlighting the concerns of our members that our members tell us about. In some of the areas, we have developed grassroots advocacy campaigns, such as the real estate campaign, and in others, we have been working on encouraging members to self-advocate by developing resources to help them take action themselves. Let's talk about the advocacy wins and what is changing from our collective actions. just a note that we cannot always claim the big action wins, because many organisations such as the Physical Disability Council of New South Wales, People with Disability Australia, etc., are also advocating with us. And same with Spinal ACT, who's also been advocating with us in the ACT as well. Okay, so I did a bit of a collage here to kind of introduce some of our ACT members. There are so many people involved, like there's 140 people involved in these advocacy groups across New South Wales and the ACT. And it's been amazing. Like, people have been coming to the meetings and contributing to our advocacy work, and also contributing to the big picture advocacy work that I've been talking about just now. So I'm actually going to show you our new website. So we've developed a advocacy wins page. It actually went live yesterday, which is amazing. So some of the information is still a little bit old, and our three speakers previously have talked about quite a few other areas. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to stop sharing this slide, and then I'm going to go onto the website. So just tell me if you can actually see it. Oops.
Oh, we can see your calendar.
Here we go.
Yeah.
You see it now? Okay, so this is our advocacy wins. So we've got a whole advocacy section on our website, and we talk about the different advocacies that we do in SCIA. Some of it's systemic, representative, individual, family, and of course the appeals as well. So we've developed a platform for all our work. So we've got a section where we put our advocacy campaigns. We've got information about our Advocacy Advisory Group. We've had policy briefings and submissions. We've got a Take Action Yourself page. We've got how you can watch the forums and videos directly from the site, and we've got this section called Advocacy Wins. So this is the section we're going to be talking about today. So our members have already spoken to you about some of these local advocacy wins that we had. So I'm not going to go through this one, but as you can see, we actually have written them down. They're not all here, so we do need to add to this page as we're going. But yeah, we've got a few of those. We've also got NDIS wins as well that we've had. Some of these have been systemic wins, and others have been, working with local members, like what Sarah Lynn was talking about before, to actually support people get NDIS packages. And we've also developed fact sheets in the Taking Action Yourself page to actually help people to self-advocate on local council issues and any other issues that, some of the other issues that come up in this section as well. And we as a team have been doing submissions and working behind the scenes to with some of the reform work that's happening around the NDIS. Accessible parkings. So this is the one that that Jane was talking about with Adrian, where Adrian's actually written to Services New South Wales, and they basically said, he said that, my permit's been destroyed by sunlight. Will you replace it for free? And they said yes, and we do have that in writing. So if you need that from us, we can share that with you, and you can take it to your local services now and say, here you go, I want this for free. We've also got Spinal ACT has been working with us as well, and Jordan's already covered that. Housing. So basically in the housing section, there's been quite a lot of work done behind the scenes in this. There's a lot of high level advocacy work. We're part of the Building Better Homes campaign. We're part of other campaigns that are going around in this housing space. So the big win has been that New South Wales housing pattern book design will at least meet the requirements of the Australian Building Code standards for housing, which is for universal. I think it's for universal housing. I can't see it properly.
Yeah, livable housing design standards.
Yeah,
so
thank you.
The pattern book it's if you want to buy sort of an off-the-shelf design,
Yep.
It only costs $1 and it gets your house up really quickly. So
Yep.
we're advocating for some other things, like all houses to meet the building code's livable standard, but it's a step in the right direction. So it's important to share that.
So people can actually buy those plans, and it's amazing. And they can do it not just for small dwellings, but for kind of high, what they call low-rise units as well, apartment blocks. The Building Commission, we actually were part of a consultation with a lot of other advocacy groups and also builders, the big builders, about getting the National Construction Code silver standard levels. Look, they haven't said no, but they haven't said yes either. They have decided to make a decision about this next year, so we're still fighting on this one as well. We've met with the City of Sydney, who've now committed 100% livable housing design in all their new builds, so all their new units. Which is fantastic. And a lot of the other councils, the ones that we have been working with, like Waverley, Bayside, they've also got certain percentages for livable housing as well. Some of them are higher than others. Like I think Waverley's looking at least 25%. Others have 10%. We're also talking to them about, if people do redevelopments, like, for example, if they decide to renovate, if it's 50% renovation, could they possibly have a conversation with the builder and say, look, you should consider making this a livable housing design house, so that people can actually grow in, age in place, as they call it. We have members that have been invited on local DAP committees, same with staff at SCIA as well. I've been on a few, Tony's been on a few, Jane was talking about hers, I think Sarah Lynn was involved in their local council area as well, and also other committees as well that people are actually on. Okay, we've been working with Waverley Council to improve awareness of housing as well, and not just Waverley, but we've been talking to other councils about this as well. And there are some real estates who are interested in our real estate campaign and are committed to kind of showcasing that they are accessible as well. Taxis is the other one of the biggest issues that we've got as well. So we've got Tony, who's actually working with the agency on the training and development planning. So looking at the training resources and developing some resources for taxi drivers. Who is it just accessible taxis, Susie, or is it all taxi
it's
drivers?
Training for wheelchair accessible new wheelchair accessible taxi drivers, and Tony reports that the training is looking really good. So
yeah, 15 million package was designed to improve passenger experience, including support grants, loan schemes, and to increase subsidy, and also the driver training, which is really good. And SCIA has been very much involved in this in the taxi area in terms of advocacy.
Sorry, Gordana, Sarah Lynn's got a question.
Oh yeah, go on, Sarah Lynn. Sorry.
With that, I know that taxi companies actually get people when they're training really in wheelchairs and get them to have a feel of that. Will that be something we advocate for? Because I think it's a really valuable experience for them to understand with, okay, if you go around this corner too fast, this is going to hurt that person or that adjustment. So will that be something that will be in the training for drivers?
I don't know whether the vehicle is moving when they're using, testing what it feels like to be in a wheelchair. I believe they do go through the process of getting in and out of the vehicle in a wheelchair. But that's something we can ask Tony. He normally attends these forums, but he's unavailable today. But we can ask him what conversations and ask him to suggest that. Thank you, Sarah Lynn.
Thank you. Equity for people with complex disability 65 and over. This is probably one of the biggest issues that we're tackling and one of the most complex ones that we're dealing with here. There's been quite a lot of change in the aged care sector, and we were hoping that some of that change would include this group as well, but it hasn't kind of happened. So there have been some wins, and that's the inclusion of home modifications and assistive technology as a separate category in the new Aged Care Act, which is good. And there's also a provision if people need additional funds for technology such as electric chairs and things like that, then that funding is also available. There's an increase in the level in the support at home package, but unfortunately that doesn't necessarily result in any kind of improvement for people with spinal cord injury. And because of the increase in fees, it's actually not really, hasn't had a huge impact on our people at all. Okay, so the last one is transport. So SCIA is engaged with the Accessible Transport Access Committee to offer guidance on transport issues. So Tony's involved in that group as well. And that seems to be going really well. And the beauty about being in that group is a lot of the things that you guys bring up at your meetings, we take to our fortnightly meetings, and then we give that information is then taken by Tony into this group. And we do have a number of areas that we have contact with, like for the NDIS, we've got the Advisory Council that we can directly send things to them to bring up as well. So it's really important that we are on these groups to be able to share the information that you guys are providing for us, where these things can actually have an impact or be changed. And the aviation white paper actions, including requirements for airports and airlines to collaborate, review is happening on the limit of the number of passengers with disability who are able to be on a plane, and improved remedies for damage to wheelchairs as well. And Tony used to be on this committee as well in the past, and I think the aviation paper actually came directly from the work that they were doing as well, and the changes that are required in this space. The other thing that we've got a member who's in the South East Sydney group, a member called Stuart, who's been meeting with Qantas in New Zealand and Virgin Australia. He's done this off his own bat, and he wants to create empathy to treat people's wheelchairs and other mobility equipment with respect. So he's actually been able to get involved directly with the agencies that are actually do that contract work for Qantas. And it looks like he's going to be able to do some direct training with them to create that empathy and explaining to people that, if his wheelchair is damaged, he basically can't get off this plane. So that people have a better understanding. The people who are doing the baggage handling have a better understanding of what it's like for a person with a disability if you do damage their equipment. And we've also just had a change that we heard about the other day, and that was Camilla from the South East Sydney group again, who's actually been lobbying with New South Wales Railway to change some of the signage that they had. So when you go through the turnstiles at your local train station now in New South Wales, it used to read, please walk through. Now it says, please go through. So even though it's a fantastic change in terms of wording and what that actually means for people with disability, and it shows respect, which is amazing. Okay, that's it from me. Anybody else? Susie.
I just put my hand up just because I think the win that that person had was for the metro stations only. I believe she's about to tackle the other rail stations. So if you go to the railway stations and you don't see the please go through, don't be disappointed. Go to the metro instead. It's really pretty, the metro anyway, and it will be there. And she's tackling the railway next.
Yes.
So while I'm speaking, I just wanted to sort of say this advocacy wins page, we've got other issues we've heard about today that we need to add, but I think it helps equity for people over 65, housing, taxis, transport, health. Actually, everything on here is a really big issue, and it will take years to tackle the whole lot. Someone asked me today when we'd take our policy briefs down, when they'd stop being priorities, and the answer is probably not anytime soon. But these wins show us we are having wins. Even though equity for people over 65 is nowhere near what we were hoping for, having home modifications and assistive technology separated out under the new support at home is a big win for a lot of people who were waiting and saving and scrimping to get a new wheelchair. So there are a lot of wins that we don't always see. So having this hopefully can inspire you guys to see that the things you're doing, especially in the local issues, are actually working. It can help you see, okay, it's not all in vain. We're actually making change on the ground. And I imagine that local issues will get bigger and bigger and bigger. You'll also see the like button and the thumbs up button, which was an addition by our marketing team. It's very social media-y. So it's been launched, this page, for almost 24 hours. I don't think we've got any likes or loves yet. So get you guys on there, especially for your local wins, and get some likes and have people have a look, because I think it really is testimony to the work that you're all doing on the ground and fits in so well with this forum's purpose, which is, what you've asked about. We've been listening, trying to build a model that really supports you.
So if we look to next year, what we're doing is we're going to do some more work on local transport. There's been a couple of issues that have come up about local buses and also local trains that we want to look into more detail. We want to develop a policy brief around local infrastructure issues, because from all the teams, that's probably the biggest thing that's coming through is the relationship between, disability groups and the local council, issues in terms of infrastructure and the impact that it has on people with disability. And we also want to put a standing area for NDIS, especially now, because we know a lot of our group members are actually starting to do their reassessments. So we want to make sure that we capture the issues that may or may not be coming up through that as well. Okay, so Susie, I'm going to hand over to you so you can close off.
Okay, well, I just wanted to finish off by saying thank you to everybody. Thank you to our presenters. Thank you to Gordana, who I think her name has been mentioned a lot by our three presenters today, who puts these forums on, has for the last 2 years, who supports all our Advocacy Advisory Group members and all everyone on the ground as well, who goes and takes the minutes and tries to visit everyone. None of this would have happened without Gordana and her amazing energy for the humans that she works with, as well as that all our advisory committee members, all you guys who attend. It's quite nice to look back over the wins and over all the successes that we've had as a collective group. And I'm really looking forward to growing these wins with all of you next year. I know I said to Gordana I would say a whole bunch of things at the end. I don't know, Gordana, if I remember to say any of them, because but that will probably do. Thank you all so much for coming to today's forum.